This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio. Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. On deck today, a review of Sun Princess, and staff writer Richard Sims is here as always. Hello, Richard.
Hey, Doug.
We start with more news from Carnival about what we can expect out of their destination Celebration Key when it opens.
Yeah, this is very exciting for anybody who likes food because they have announced, a lot of times you go to a private island and there's like maybe a buffet and, if you're lucky, there might also be like a little restaurant or something. But Celebration Key, they are clearly rolling out the food and beverage program. They are offering 30 different food and beverage outlets there when it opens in Grand Bahama in July of next year. And these offerings are going to include everything from full service restaurants. There's going to be a food hall, 9 food trucks, 5 snack shacks, 2 counter service kiosks, and 12 different bars. And there's everybody now thinks like swim up bars are the big thing. And this one's going to have a 100-seat swim up bar in at Calypso Lagoon. There's also going to be, in Calypso Lagoon, there'll be a swim up bar that's loud and has the DJ, and there'll be a quieter one for people who want something a little bit quieter. There's also going to be a bar where you can sit on swings. I've seen this in, I want to say Nassau, but I don't think it was Nassau. It was Freeport. In Freeport, I saw a bar like that where, you could go up and you could sit on a swing while you're having a drink, which seems a little dangerous. If you have 3 or 4 drinks, you might just fall right off that swing. What's interesting to me is this particular bit, and I don't know that I fully understand it. The press release regarding this said, and I'm quoting here, Carnival guests will enjoy an Island Eats offering where each guest, utilizing their Sail and Sign card, may enjoy 1 complimentary Island Eats meal at a quick casual outlet, snack shack, or food trucks across the destination, or choose instead to receive 25% off 1 entree per person at the full service restaurants, excluding, and then there's like the fancy place that it's not going to be included at. So it sounds as if there will be some complimentary food, and there will be, I think, a lot that is not included, but that you can get like this discount and you can get like 1 free item. It's a little bit confusing. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But like on a cruise ship, it certainly sounds as if you will not go hungry anytime during your stay at Celebration Key.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess they might attribute that to waste, maybe, or is what they'll say, We want to control waste. Yeah. So that'll be interesting how that plays out for them. And one of the newest ships in the world, and actually one of the largest ships in the world, is having a very familiar problem.
Stop me if you've heard this one before, but a ship is having propulsion issues. Now, normally, when we've talked about this in the past, I think it's almost always, not always, but it's quite often been Carnival ships. This time, however, it's Royal Caribbean, and it's the Icon of the Seas, the newest, biggest ship in the Royal Fleet, and I think it's the biggest ship in the world currently. And they had 1 sailing impacted by their propulsion issues, and then they had to cancel another entirely so they could address it. Now, I got to give props to Royal Caribbean for jumping on this so quickly, because other lines have sort of let these issues go on for several sailings, sometimes for a long time, before they actually get around to addressing the issue. And yes, I'm talking to you, Carnival Cruise Line. But this is a huge deal because as the current largest ship in the world, canceling even 1 sailing is a huge loss of revenue. And it's doubly so because not only, as a make good, they're not just giving people, their money back, giving them a refund. They're also giving them a full future cruise credit. So when you think about how many people sail on Icon of the Seas, and you take away 1 revenue sailing and then double that because you're also giving a future fuse credit, that is a lot of money being spent. But, good for them doing the right thing and doing it as soon as possible as opposed to waiting.
And speaking of money, one Carnival passenger thought they found a way to save a little bit of dough, but quickly find out, well, they were wrong.
Oh, they were so wrong. YouTuber Richard Shillington thought he'd found a workaround. He was, like many people, he was going to run his YouTube channel and do some broadcasts from the ship. But rather than paying for the internet, he brought on board a Starlink mini dish. This was on the Carnival Miracle. Now, it sounds like his big mistake here was basically revealing this info on his channel while he was on the ship. It sounds like he basically did a blog saying, hey, look at this. I've brought my own internet on board. And of course, someone at Carnival noticed this and dispatched someone to reclaim his Starlink mini dish. Now, Carnival was like, this is not allowed. He tried to argue that while the rules say no satellite dishes, his device was a satellite dish, not a dish. That was his argument. And Carnival was like, yeah, no, sorry, this is still the same thing. So they confiscated it. And honestly, this falls into the same category as sneaking liquor on board. Of course, they're not going to let you bring something that they can sell you. I mean, what, you think they're going to let you put a slot machine in your room instead of using their casino and losing in their venue? No, of course not. So, if you have the idea that you're going to somehow steal the internet by bringing on board a satellite disk, think twice, because it is not allowed.
And it is pretty impressive, though, the speeds that thing got. I have one of those for when I hike and in my camper for remote areas. And those things, I think I've made a setup before. My internet and my speed is faster in the middle of Glacier National Park than it is here in a studio downtown Jacksonville. So it's just interesting how fast those things can go and how it will work at sea now with Starlink Marine.
Definitely. I mean, we have actually a Starlink backup system here at our main compound in Woodstock, and we don't use it unless the regular internet is down for the most part, but it is incredible. I mean, I don't know why we don't just switch to it full time, frankly.
Yeah. No, those things are awesome. And, over in France, activists have found an interesting way to try to make their point clear.
This took place in Marseille. About 20 activists from the group Extinction Rebellion joined forces with a local group called Stop Cruises. And yes, it has like a fancy French name that I'm not even going to try and pronounce because I will butcher it. 20 activists climbed into their canoes and formed a miniature blockade that managed to delay ships from arriving at port for like 3 hours. Now, one ship basically said, screw this, and went to a different port, somewhere else to dock. But this is just the latest salvo in the increasingly nasty battle between cruise lines and their opponents. And, in some cases, it's people who are protesting the impact of cruise ships on the environment. In some cases, it's people who are protesting over tourism. But there is definitely a battle brewing between cruise lines, people who love cruises, and those who would like to see them, sort of permanently docked.
And Virgin Voyages' very first ship they launched is heading for a dry dock.
Yeah, that's right. This is the Scarlet Lady, which was the ship which launched the entire Virgin Voyages line. And they, over the last few years, have been like all cruise lines and really all good businesses do. They've been collecting information from their passengers and sort of assessing what kind of changes they make. So in November, Scarlet Lady is going to be the first Virgin Voyages ship to go through a dry dock where they make changes based on that feedback. And it'll be there for about 2 weeks. During that time, the ship's going to get a little bit of a makeover, including the addition of more Rockstar suites, which makes sense since that's obviously the most popular category. If you're going to go on a Virgin cruise, you stay in a Rockstar suite. But they're also going to be expanding the casino to include more slot machines and shaking up some of the dining venues in mostly minor ways. The one that is caught my attention the most is that they are changing Razzle Dazzle. They're not only expanding the menu and changing some of the meals that it serves, that kind of thing, and the times that it serves, but they are also taking out a lot of the communal tables and replacing them with booths. This is something that I know we've heard from some people. They've complained about the fact that in some of some of the dining venues on Virgin Voyages, you wind up being seated with other people. Now that's very common on cruise ships, obviously, but a lot of people like being seated with just their groups. So now the big communal tables that were sort of the center focal point of Razzle Dazzle will be replaced. I don't know if they're going to replace all of them or just most of them, but they will be replaced with booths, allowing for smaller groups to be seated. Once the ship comes out of dry dock, she'll do a 16-day crossing from Rome to Miami. And then, that's where she's home ported. So she'll pick back up on her regular Caribbean sailings.
And we wrap with new details being released on Norwegian Cruise Line's Norwegian Aqua and one after that.
Yeah, not just the Aqua, which is the ship that's coming out this coming spring, but also Luna, which is the ship that's coming out afterwards. Both of these ships are sort of mirrors of each other. And while they are members of the Prima class, they're a little bit different than the Prima class. The first two ships in the Prima class are sort of mirrors of each other, and the Aqua and Luna are basically twins of one another as well. And while there are all kinds of, details yet to come and some that have been released, I think the thing that everybody's going to be talking about is going to be the Aqua Slide Coaster, which, this is basically replacing the go-karts. And if you remember when Norwegian released the first ship to have go-karts on board, it was all anyone in the mainstream media could talk about. Oh, look, go-karts at sea. What's next? Well, now we know. Now we know what's next, which is a combination water slide and roller coaster. Now, they're dubbing this as sort of the first in the world. And, that's sort of true. I mean, Disney has done some things sort of like this. The big difference seems to be the launch system. It's going to be a little bit closer to a conventional launch system, using magnets to really push you up that initial hill, which, nice thing, you don't have to climb up a staircase the way you do, most water slides and things like that. They haven't worked out really all the details yet because, for example, there will be two slides side by side, each of which can operate two rafts at the same time. They're saying that it'll process, I can't remember if it's both of them or one of them can process like 200 passengers an hour, which is a nice number. But they want to be able to make it so that if you want a high speed ride, you can do that. If you want a lower, less thrilling ride, you can do that as well. And that sort of is going to depend on, do they do certain hours where it's more kid friendly and then, other times where it's the more thrill ride aspect. That hasn't been completely worked out yet. But Doug, you got a first look at the sort of the whole structure of not only this still under construction ship, but the Aqua Coaster in particular. What did you think of it?
Yeah, we were up on deck with Alex, one of the innovation guys over there at NCL, and he was explaining it to us. And like you said about the Disney, the Aqueduct, is it duck, like quack quack, or duct?
It is duck.
So it was cool seeing the two arms that are going to slingshot you from 0 to 30, which is kind of fast if you're sitting on a raft.
And on top of a ship.
Yeah. For me personally, it's very, I don't know if I'll do it or not. I'll have to wait and see because I'm very claustrophobic, as you know, and it's all tubed. Because you remember that one slide they had where people were kind of getting stuck in the tube and they had to install that escape hatch? That would be hell to me. I would have a nervous breakdown because I can't fly if I'm not in an aisle seat.
I don't think this will suffer that same problem. I will take your place on it. I will do the test run and give people the first-hand report because I think this is the coolest thing. I love the idea of this. It reminds me a little bit of some of the slides they have over at Atlantis. Even though Atlantis is wildly expensive, on two different occasions I've spent the money and gone and spent the day there, and they have something sort of similar, although instead of sort of something that propels you upwards, you ride up on a very slow moving escalator. So that part is a little less daunting. I love stuff like this. So I'm really psyched to see this. And the other thing that's really cool about this, my big complaint with the go-karts was how much of the top deck footprint they take up. Uh-huh. And this is much like Bolt on the Carnival coasters. This is elevated above the decks. So it doesn't eat up space that could be used for other things. And I think that is probably for me the biggest improvement here. Also, they've said that right now it supposedly is going to be free. We'll see if that lasts. But as of right now, there's no mention of there being a cost attached to it. So very into that idea.
Yeah, walking around the ship, I was impressed. I mean, really, you don't know like what is what because it's just nothing but welders and wires and pipes at this point. And sometimes the walls are up, sometimes they're not. You know, the Commodore restaurant, which is one of their main dining rooms in the back, that's going to be larger. There are some changes there. I think
it's also going to have 10% increased capacity. So
okay,
it's not like they're increasing the footprint, but not putting more people in there. You are listening to this and you have not seen the photos. You should really go to the site because Doug's got some really cool photos that, you know, we don't get to see often. We don't often get to see the ships under construction, certainly from the inside. Sometimes we see them from the outside because the various outside of the ship in progress, but we rarely get to see the interiors. And Doug got some really cool shots, so I highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah, you can find that at cruiseradio.net and a whole dump of them, like hundreds on the Patreon at Cruise Radio. So with that said, staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, my friend.
As always, glad to be here.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
Rob and his family just returned from a 7-night cruise on Princess Cruises' brand new Sun Princess. It went from Barcelona over to Rome, and he joins us on the line to talk all about it. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing excellent, Doug. Honored to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on and getting an official review of Sun Princess because when I did it, it was kind of on the rollout there and not a lot of things were open and all that. So I'm excited to hear your take on it. But before we do that, we'll take a step back. Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. What made you want to take this 7-nighter on Sun?
Well, we've done a couple of land tours in Europe, or land vacations in Europe. And we always wanted to do Mediterranean. And then I heard your podcast on your inaugural sailing. It definitely caught our ear. We said, you know what, that would be a fun trip to do on a newer ship. That kind of locked in our decision.
Awesome. And you're over in the LA area. So you had to make your way from LA to Barcelona. Now, we were talking before the chat here, and you got your air through Princess, like through their package. Is that how you did it?
Yeah. And, we priced it out. We were shopping around. And to our surprise, the Princess price was actually cheaper than going any other direction that we thought we like Expedia or whatever. Princess price by far beat them all.
Yeah, it's that buying in bulk with the crew members and everything that they have some pretty good negotiation power when they come for buying those airlines and getting really good rates there. So it's always smart to check out the cruise line first. You might not get the route you want, but it's definitely like a fraction of the cost of what you would pay if you bought it just, through American.com or whatever. So very cool to hear that. You make your way from LA over to Barcelona. Did you do any pre-cruise time?
We did. We spent about 3 days there. We wanted to do that mainly because we wanted to adjust our time, being that it's, was it how many 12, 15-hour difference. We wanted to make sure that that when we got on the ship, we were able to adjust, properly and enjoy the cruise. And so we did do 3 nights in Barcelona. And we stayed in a place that was kind of in between the airport and, the main, tourist kind of city hub. And it was a great time. We saw all the main sites, the Basilica, and we did a walking tour, the Picasso Museum. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Nice. So it's time to board the ship. Now, I know that the Barcelona cruise port holds a ton of ships, I think almost a dozen. Was it a big turn day when you boarded Sun Princess?
It was actually like you said, just tons of ship. MSC was there, and and Royal, all these, just all these different brands were there. So yeah, quite a few people. But I have to say, it went pretty smooth, except for one thing. I'm gonna have to throw my wife, Dawn, under the bus here. She forgot her medallion in the suitcase. That was a huge mistake. Oh my gosh! So it was like one of those moments where we're already at the counter and we're ready to go in, and the person just said, "Because you don't have a medallion, we got to make you a temporary card." And they didn't know who to talk to do that, And so we're waiting and waiting, and we finally get this temporary card so that she can get on, onto the ship. Well, the problem is every time they scanned our medallion, they had to manually input her card into their iPad, and every step just took forever. But we finally got on.
Even though you threw her under the bus, you would have been throwing me under the bus too, because I went down the same path as she did. So how long did it take you though from the curb to the ship itself?
It took a little bit over 30 minutes, which I think we probably would have cut that easily in half if we had that medallion. But because of all the processing, it took a little bit over 30 minutes to get onto the ship.
So you make your way,
isn't bad.
Yeah, not at all. Not for a med cruise. You make your way on board the ship. Well, what were your first impressions of Sun Princess? Because you're walking up to the ship, you see that sphere thing on the, I guess part of the atrium, the central area there. That you're walking in there. What did you think of it?
Oh, just breathtaking. And you can still smell the newness of that ship, which is wonderful, which is, I guess the chemicals from the carpet and whatnot, but it's just nice. I've never been on a new ship. So walking on there, it felt so nice. It was beautiful. That atrium area, everything was just breathtaking. It was really nice.
Was this your first Princess cruise?
It is our first Princess cruise. So we just heard a lot. We've heard, of course, podcasts, everything on it. And my mother-in-law, Nancy, she loves Princess. She's like way up there on the status. She's like, oh yeah, you'll enjoy it. She said, the one thing she said was, oh, you're not going to like the shower curtains, which we didn't have to deal with.
Yeah, the new ones don't have that, which is great. You make your way to your stateroom. What kind of stateroom did y'all have for the 7-night cruise? And what were your impressions throughout the week?
We had a balcony. Definitely, walk in, and both of us, we've done a lot of Royal, we've done a lot of Carnival, we've done Disney once, and we walked into this room and we just thought, wow, this is high class. This is really top notch. Everything from the bathrooms to the multiple plugs everywhere. I have a CPAP machine, and I didn't have to break out the extension cord. I had it right next to me. There's a plug right there. USB-C outlets. Closet. I thought the closet was plenty big, although some of the other people we've talked to on the ship had said, "Oh yeah, there used to be a walk-in or something like that," which I didn't know about. So therefore, I thought it was already huge. Mm-hmm. The shower was so nice. The glass on there. Of course, being new ship, it just feels nice. But the bathroom, just wonderful, plenty of space. Oh my goodness, so nice, so nice.
Now, did y'all buy the Premier or Plus package for this sailing?
We got the Plus package, and it was actually, so we bought ours through Costco, and they had some deal that was the part of the Plus package, and then they would give you a bunch of Costco gift cards afterwards. So it almost broke even to just go with the Plus package because of that. And so, yeah, that was wonderful.
Let's talk about dining on Sun Princess. Of course, there's quite a few dining venues on here, but we'll start at the buffet area up on, or I guess on deck 9, or I think it was 9 or 8 or 9. How was the buffet area there for you? And what did you think of the selection of food throughout your 7 nights?
Yeah, the buffet area, I actually liked the layout. You know how the layout kind of almost like a horseshoe, right? Mm-hmm. You enter one door and kind of wrap around and it goes into the other side. And each station is just different, and you have people serving you, which actually for me, I like that. Some people say, well, I want to control my own food, but you know what? As far as that goes, the germs and everything these days, I actually, enjoyed having someone put that on a plate and it's nice and clean, to you. So I really liked the food I thought the buffet food was really good. I had no complaints about it at all.
Yeah, I don't even want to say it was a gripe, but I guess the only thing really missing, I would say, from the buffet area was you couldn't go up and get your own drink. You had to wait on them, and sometimes when they were busy, it took a little bit. But I think on my last day on board, I saw where a drink machine was installed there. So maybe they might be rolling them out once they figured out that, hey, everyone wants drinks at one time, and we only have so many servers. Did you notice that? Did they have drink machines like self-service coffee and drinks, or did you have to be served all your drinks?
Okay, so it wasn't. I didn't notice the machines, but I noticed definitely areas where they had the iced tea and the lemonade. Just kind of in between the tables and whatnot for you to just handle yourself. And of course, the water. There's water on the tables, which is kind of unique to Carnival and Royal. So it was nice to just have water there and pour yourself instead of having to get up and and grab a cup or something like that too. So.
Now, they have that 3-deck dining room on the back of the ship, 6, 7, and 8. So what time dining did you have, and how was your meals in the main dining room?
The main dining room, we did my time, which is, right, you could just select your time. And so the first day, actually, I want to say first 3 days, we were very disappointed. The very first meal we had was a welcome lunch in the main dining room. We kept joking like, oh my gosh, that was the unwelcome lunch. Like, the server was just so stoic and couldn't break a smile, and the food was so subpar. We ended up just leaving and going, yeah, that's was really bad, So that kind of started out on a bad note for the main dining room. But then, say by the third day, wow, the food got better. We ended up staying with this the server that was just amazing, server and assistant. We were asking for that table because they were just so good. And from that moment on, we absolutely enjoyed the food, the service, and everything. So started out rough, but ended up fantastic.
Did you get a chance to pop into that American diner part of the main dining room?
I think we saw it, but then we just kind of stuck with what we had, which was good.
You didn't miss much. It was like fried chicken and like roadside type food that you would find on like Route 66 or whatever. Just basic stuff in there. But it was pretty cool. They served it all day. You can get breakfast for dinner if you wanted to. Like a Greasy Spoon diner type place. That kind of menu there, which wasn't that bad. How about specialty restaurants through your 7 nights? Any of those?
Yeah, well, we had the Plus package, which gave let me think. I think it was two trips to Alfredo's and O'Malley's. And those were the two specialty, but not dinners. It was like, I guess you could have for dinner too, but they weren't like sit down kind of, fancy specialty. They were, kind of, casual, right? Casual. So we hit both. We hit both Alfredo's and O'Malley's.
Man, that pizza at Alfredo's is top notch.
Okay, all right.
But
you were going to say that.
Go ahead.
We thought it was okay. And I don't know, is it because we got the Plus package and they limited us to a certain section on the menu? We couldn't have the really, really, I guess, higher end ones, but it was good. But we actually liked that Promenade Grill. Have you been back there with the thick slice pizza on the buffet level right outside? There's a bar, and then there's the Promenade Grill.
Okay.
And they have this thick slice pizza, like really thick.
Huh.
Yeah, did you try that?
I must not have had that on
it?
Yeah, no, I didn't have it.
Okay, because that's also the place we accidentally bumped into it because part of our Plus package, we get the green juice. And they're at that bar, they're serving the green juice. And we looked over like, is that pizza? And they're like, yeah. And the pizza was probably about inch thick, so good and gooey. And that's kind of the pizza we kind of like. And so we kind of went there like more often, kind of fell in love with that. So Alfredo's was good, but yeah, we kind of like the Promenade more. So
what did you think of O'Malley's?
So O'Malley's, the Scotch egg, we had to try that. And that was really good. The burger was just okay. But what I really like, because I'm a Scotch drinker, is the different combinations of Scotch drinks they had there. And we noticed that throughout the ship, every bar kind of had their specialty drinks, and O'Malley's had some of the best Scotch mixes that I've ever had. So it was really, really good.
Nice. So did you get to pop into like Cagney's or Sabatini's? Not Cagney's, the Crown Grill, I should say, which is Princess's Steakhouse, or did you just stick with the two that were included in the package you had?
We stuck with the two, and mainly because we thought about it, but mainly because, the lobster night was coming and things like that, and so we just decided, the food, by the third night, we thought the food was really good, service was really good, and we decided not to do any of the, the fine dining part of that. So
let's talk about the entertainment on board. You have the dome up there. You have the theater, which is a different configuration, in that wide open atrium/piazza area. What did you think of it all?
Yeah, so that dome place was, just to talk about the dome first, that's probably the most relaxing place on any ship that we've ever been on. We would just sit there, and the water's, there's a pool inside there. The water's running. It's so relaxing. We ended up doing some yoga there. They had an acrobatic show at night. Now, the one gripe is, so you were in there, the seating are just these lounge chairs, right? Mm-hmm. And it's great for lounging and everything, but not so, I guess, conducive to a show. Like, so you're watching a show in there, and all the lounges are kind of pushed there, and they're expecting you to have a double seat where someone sits on behind you, and then you're sitting in front of that lounge. It was a very awkward positioning to sit and watch a show. So that's my only gripe about the dome, is that they're going to put a show in there. They should get better seating.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Where it's like a waterfall statue or fixture right when you walk into the dome on the lower level. Like, if I ever wanted to catch a show where the aerialist, I would have to stand there, because any of those upper tiers, it feels like you're blocking people because they're hanging out in their chairs and you're trying to watch the show. It's just a weird mix.
Oh, you're 100% blocking someone. And I felt so bad, because I kept looking behind me going like, I'm a little bit, I'm like 6 feet, and so I'm kind of like squishing down just to make sure that my big head's not in front of someone, and I felt terrible. And you're just sitting there throughout the whole show, and I was feeling that good. And by the way, it's not a very big venue. So they did cut it off at some point, and people were just furious, going, wait, this is the last show. I want to see it, and they couldn't get in because the venue just wasn't big enough to hold, 3,000 people, right? So
yeah, it's interesting to see how they'll make some adjustments to that programming and maybe seating configuration as these ships move forward. How about outside of there, like the main theater or the main Piazza Central area?
So we did a headliner magician show as well. Very mediocre. I mean, when you compare it to Magic Castle, it's definitely, just okay, but we did end up watching a bunch of shows is it the Piazza? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's called the Piazza. Yeah.
Those shows that were there, the music, there was also another acrobatic show in there. That was outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And plus, the way that it's set up with multi-tier, you can be on a second or third tier, and just get a great view of it. And of course, there's drinks. So the International Cafe that's right there. So yeah, it was just such a nice venue to watch something in. And the music was great. Music was absolutely great.
How was the casino on board with the smoke situation in and around it?
Yes. So it's kind of funny. I met this guy, Ewan, from Scotland, and we just kind of hit it off, and we're trying to different bars and and having our drinks, and at one point we said, hey, let's have a cigar, and to be honest, I don't smoke or anything, but every so often I can enjoy a cigar, and then so he had a really strong Scottish accent, and he goes, no, we're going to the casino, they can smoke in there. So we go in there, and I asked, the one of the waiters, can we smoke in there? And he says, yeah, you can only smoke on this side. So I look around, and he said literally, like, he just kind of pointed to this side. There was no there's nothing saying this is the smoking side, right, and this is the non-smoking side. It's like back in the day when they started doing the smoking and non-smoking sections, and you literally sit next to a person that's smoking, because that's like the quote unquote line. It was like that. And then so we said, okay, we went to the smoking side, and we asked the guy, can we smoke a cigar? And the guy says, oh, yeah, absolutely. So we started smoking a cigar. We just lit up, no more than a couple of minutes. And another waiter comes back, goes, no. Like, just frantically going, put it out. You can't smoke a cigar in here. And I'm like, okay, what do we do? Oh, you have to go to the back of the ship. But here's the thing. We're sitting there, and we light the cigar, and the ceilings and exhaust fans are so good, you can't smell anything. We thought it was fantastic. We go, oh man, no one can smell a cigar. But he says, oh, it doesn't matter. It's our rule. Although we can't smell it, you just can't smoke a cigar in the casino. But I have to say, when I walked in that venue, I could not tell there was a smoking section because I felt like it was pretty good.
How about Magic Castle? Did you get a chance to do that?
I didn't.
No.
I kind of mentioned earlier was that, from LA and so I have friends who are magicians and we can get passes to our LA Magic Castle. So it didn't really catch my attention too much to want to do that. So,
but have you seen what it looks like inside there and how it's like a replica, how they designed this thing? It's so freaking cool with the crazy thing, like the magical windows in there and the things that move and the bookshelf and the owl. And I don't want to give too much away, but it goes back so far. And it's actually just on the other side of that smoking area, the casino. That's where it's located, right behind that wall there. But it was really, really, really cool. And the drinks they had there were super spot on. So if you find yourself on Sun Princess, even though you do live in LA and you can go to Magic Castle, I would recommend, just because if you're a fan of Magic Castle, to see how they brought it to life at sea with the owner's granddaughter in charge of everything with the design and everything. It's just really, really cool.
Wow. Okay. All right. Now you've intrigued me. I think we'll probably try that. What's the upcharge on that?
It was $149, but in full disclosure, they invited me to come check it out so I could talk about it. But it was, I would say, worth it. It was just like the Magic Castle experience that I went to over in LA. The drinks were actually included in this one. In LA, they weren't, but the meal was included, the show, and you could drink. If you didn't have the drink package, you could soak up as many as you wanted.
Well, if you're ever in LA, then I want to invite you and we can go.
Yeah.
So you just let me know.
100%. Yeah. I'll take you up on that offer for sure. So let's pivot here to the Sea Days. How were they as far as crowds and congestion?
The ship was big enough that I definitely didn't. Well, we didn't feel like there was any kind of major, overcrowding. The pool, on Sea Days, granted it's hot, it's humid, people want to be by the pool. So my daughter Emily and her friend went on this cruise with us, and they're about 14 years old. And so one thing I did notice was that on Sea Days, because the flying thing and that whole area for the teenagers was closed, they kind of got bored. You saw a lot of teenagers kind of just hanging around the stairwells and things like that. And, just kind of not knowing what to do, with themselves, especially if they didn't, go into the pool or anything. But that was kind of a downer on Sea Days. You saw a lot of roaming around, Gotcha. A lot of kids out there. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, you're cool parents letting your daughter bring a friend to Europe from LA. That's awesome.
Well, long story short, my oldest daughter had an internship. She couldn't go, and Princess was nice enough to, substitute someone in. And so she got lucky.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Well, let's touch on the ports of call. You hit on this 7-night cruise. You leave Barcelona. Your first port of call was what, Gibraltar?
First one was Gibraltar. Yep. And we're there from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And of course, the big draw of Gibraltar is a Gibraltar Rock, Rock of Gibraltar, I'm sorry. And I love history. So there was one of those things where I already knew about this, I know all the history about that. So I wanted to go up there. And, they had the monkeys out there. And actually our two girls that were there, they loved the monkeys. They thought that was so cool up there. The monkeys are pretty friendly. You got to be careful. We definitely saw them jumping on people's heads and everything. We were kind of like, no, we don't want that, But the downer to Gibraltar was getting up there. Have you been up there?
I have.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you took the tram. We took the tram up there. The cable tram.
Yeah, I took like a €5 bus from the cruise port.
And that's the way to go. And that would be my tip: is take the €5 bus to go up there, because we got to that tram thinking, oh, how cool, this tram. I think it took 2 hours from the time we got there to that line that wrapped around the building, around the street, and finally got onto the tram, which was, at that point, we were soaking wet, dripping, hot and everything. And it was just such a downer. Like, oh, this is it, and we went up to the top and, the £5 bus is the way to go.
Yeah, I guess it would be pound there, wouldn't it? Because Gibraltar's part of like the UK. Is that correct? It is English territory. Okay, yeah. And then France. How was Marseille?
That was good. Marseille's beautiful. It's a beautiful town known for soap. And we took a bus ride. And by the way, interesting thing was we were there during the Olympics, and so they had the sailing race, and so a lot of the Olympic flags and things like that. And I think it had just happened when we had gotten there. So that was neat. But it was okay. It wasn't like, that spectacular. It was a bus ride. We took a bus ride. So my wife, she did all the different tours and everything set up. I think all of them were through a Viator or something like that. And this one was probably the most disappointing one, because not only was it just the ride itself was kind of disappointing, but getting off the ship, we didn't realize this, but they don't allow outside tour buses inside the terminal. Mm-hmm. So we had to walk, I want to say at least half a mile, 3/4 a mile to get the bus.
In Marseille, I think it was Terminal A, we were docked, and I the same experience you had, where I didn't have an excursion book, though. I was just going to kind of go into town and check out the area with a bus, but I walked out there. It is scorching hot here. I'm not doing this walk to this bus.
Right. No, everything you just said, we pretty much, said the same thing. We're like, there's no, like, a free shuttle coming out there or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
interesting.
It was weird.
Very cool. And then you went to Genoa. How was that?
Genoa was great. That was wonderful. We did a rickshaw tour. Not the old rickshaw like they would hold and run around. It was basically electric bike with 2 seats in the back. But that was wonderful. The two bikes we had, the 2 riders were local people, and they lived right there in the city. And it was neat because the rickshaw was able to go into these little tiny streets. There's a name for it. Vicoli, I think it's all, which is the small streets of Italy. And it was just so neat to see places that a typical bus tour or something wouldn't be able to see. You know what I'm saying? Because you're into these tight areas. And then they took us to places to eat, that they're local pizza places that they would usually eat at and things like that. And of course, they're known for pesto. We had some great pesto there as well. And I guess home of Columbus as well, but yeah, it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
And then your next port of call was Livorno, which is the gateway to both Pisa and Florence. Which direction did you go?
We went to Pisa because you got to go see the Leaning Tower, right?
Yeah.
We all learn about this in the history books. And yeah, so we did, along with probably 5,000 people that wanted to go that day in a nice, hot, humid environment. And we got all the, corny pictures of us holding up, pizza so it won't fall and things like that. It was hot and humid, and we climbed up there, got more pictures. And by the way, a little pro tip on this. Okay. €1 for the bathrooms. If anyone going out there, you got to make sure you got your euros so that you can make sure that you can pay for the restrooms. But if you have a ticket to go up, to the Leaning Tower of Pisa to climb up, that ticket gives you free access to the restrooms, and people didn't know that. And so there were people paying for it that I know that was walking with us, and they ended up paying for it. So
I also experienced the whole having to pay €1 to go to the restroom there. And in fact, a lot of people don't know that even like Venice, and when I was in Venice last week, same thing happened to me where I had to bum €1 from one of my colleagues to go to the restroom because there was I was at a bus station doing a transfer. If you didn't have €1, you weren't getting in there.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Everywhere. Exactly. Or, I guess one of the tips that the rickshaw riders were telling us is that you might as well go and, get a cup of coffee in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then you can use the restroom for free, spend it for something as opposed to spending it for the restroom.
Yeah, no, for sure. So after Livorno, you leave and you're going to Civitavecchia, which is the port for Rome, right?
Right,
okay.
Exactly.
So let's talk.
That's where we got off.
Okay, very cool. Now, does this sailing, were people getting on and off at different ports of call? Did you notice, or could you only embark in Barcelona and debark in Rome?
No, yeah. So this is actually a 21-day sailing, and we did only 7 days of the 21 days. We actually met people that were on the full 21 days.
Nice.
And some of them were like, yeah, we should have stopped at 14. We're a little tired of it, after 21 days. But yes, exactly. So people were boarding at the same time we were disembarking.
Nice. All right. So cool. So then let's talk about the debark process then. How was it getting off of Sun Princess, and what kind of, like, how does that stack up, and does the medallion play into that at all?
Absolutely. I think the medallion, well, I got to say, throughout the whole cruise, the medallion was wonderful. I wish every cruise line did that because it was so easy. I'll tell you, there's times where I'm walking to the room and my hands are full of something, and that medallion opens the door for you. And I'm just like, that's great. But by the way, don't put your medallion, I noticed this, don't hang your medallion behind the door because it actually unlocks it.
Oh, wow.
So you got to make sure your medallion is away from it, But it was that was convenient. It was really nice. So getting off was that same convenience. You're just walking by, boom, they scan it, you're ready to get off. But I have to say, I made a big error. I didn't book the bus from the port to the airport soon enough. They did sell out. So the instructions I got was take the free bus shuttle to the train station, and the train station would get us to the airport. Mm-hmm. And we got off, and this line, there was actually like a couple of lines. There was 3 lines. There was one line that had the, I guess, Uber drivers picking them up, and taking them to the airport or into the city. They had one line for the people who got the bus going to the airport. Then they had one line for the bus that went to the train station. And so we were in that line. And after about 30 minutes of waiting in this hot and humid, environment, I went on to the Uber app and I looked down and I was like, okay, it's about $400 to go from the port to the airport via Uber. I guess it's like Uber Black or whatever it was. Either that or I'm standing in this line that barely moved for the last half an hour and we're dripping wet. So I bit the bullet and I went ahead and did that. And I didn't tell my wife, but I guess she'll hear this and find out. You
know what else is a good company that I've been using lately? It's called Welcome Pickup. And it's an English-speaking driver, and they meet you wherever you're flying into and taking you to, let's say, a cruise port, to the airport, or from the cruise port to the hotel. Last week for me, Venice airport to the hotel. Like, it's really not pricey at all, and it's always like a Mercedes or a Sprinter van or a BMW or whatever. It's a really nice vehicle, and you don't have to worry about it. It was half the price of Uber. I know that where I was.
What was the name of that again?
It's called Welcome Pickup. And it's an app as well, and you put everything in it. It shows you, like, it breaks down the fare, and it sounds like I'm endorsing them. I'm not. I just am a big believer in them. Yeah. It's really it's a really cool. I've been using them. My friend Ben over at Cruise Fever turned me on to it about 2 years ago, I guess, when we were in Rome actually for a Costa sailing, and I've been using it ever since, just because it's so much easier than jumping on a cruise line transfer that takes forever, and they keep circling the airport waiting for people.
I'm totally going to use it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see here. Do you have any first-time tips to offer anyone who may be considering sailing Sun Princess?
Definitely. Well, Sun Princess, okay, I guess 2 different tips. One is if you're going to Mediterranean, you got to go earlier. You got to adjust to the time. We actually had friends who went on a sailing about a month before we did, and they did the opposite. They got to Barcelona, went directly onto the ship, and then went to Rome and hung out there for 3 days. But they said on the ship, the first few days, they were just like zombies, because, of the time change. So I think getting there early, adjusting to the time really helped us enjoy the cruise. And as far as on the cruise, I think getting the plus package is worth it. I mean, even if you're not a big drinker, which I'm not, but, just to have it so that you can try different things and enjoy without having to calculate, how much money did I just spend or whatever. You're on a cruise, spend a little extra few dollars. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's well worth it.
Absolutely. What was the biggest highlight of this 7-day cruise for y'all?
No, I think, hanging out with the kids and the family, it's always a great thing. But as far as the actual cruise goes, and I think that I I think the Genoa was definitely something that we'll always remember. It was just such a great experience. The rickshaw, the riders that took us around, we really had a great time, and we'll remember it for sure. And, yeah, it was nice.
Well, before we get your final thoughts, like Princess is known for their Wi-Fi, and they're like the fastest Wi-Fi at sea, they say now. What were your impressions there?
We got the Wi-Fi part of the Plus package, and that's another reason to get the Plus package. Is that if you're going to get Wi-Fi, you might as well think about the cost and everything. And having the Wi-Fi in there really made it worth it as well. But here's the thing, that Wi-Fi, and I don't know if it's SpaceX or whatever, it was fast. I was able to not only stream videos and everything, I was able to make full-on phone calls, over the Wi-Fi without any issues. So I guess good and bad, because if I didn't have Wi-Fi, I wouldn't be, be bothered by all the customers. But it was good. It was really good. Yeah.
Well, in closing here, your final thoughts of Sun Princess.
Yeah, definitely a wonderful ship. It's absolutely great what Sun Princess or Princess is doing with trying to integrate families and whatnot into their cruises. I know that they've been mainly known for kind of an older crowd. This is one of those ships that you can really bring your kids on there and have a great time. I really do enjoy that ship, and I will be on there again for sure.
Very good. When talking with Rob about his 7-night Mediterranean cruise aboard Sun Princess. Rob, thank you so much for sharing your vacation with us.
My pleasure, Doug. Truly, truly an honor.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the TripInsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,